Today, we're going to peek behind the curtain at the incredibly complex machinery that runs our global economy. We're going to look at how huge companies try to stop chaos before it even begins. And our guide for this whole thing? It's something you probably wouldn't expect. A single job description.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. We've all had that feeling, right? You're tracking a package, you're all excited, and then it just stops moving. It's stuck somewhere for days. Or you run to the store for that one thing you absolutely need, and the shelf is just totally empty. It's super frustrating. But what is really going on there?
Well, it turns out those little personal frustrations are just symptoms of something way, way bigger. We're talking about a huge, interconnected global network that is, believe it or not, incredibly fragile.
And at the very heart of all this is the supply chain. Now, this isn't just one factory and one truck. It's more like a giant tangled web that stretches across the entire planet. It starts with, the people mining the metal out of the ground. Then it goes to a factory that turns it into something usable, then to another that assembles the parts. And that's all before it even gets on a ship, through customs, and eventually to your front door.
And this is the real problem. That whole massive chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Seriously, one tiny break, a flood in one country, a political snag in another, a strike halfway around the world, can send these insane shockwaves through the entire system. And that's exactly when you get those delays and those empty shelves.
So how do these massive global companies even begin to protect themselves from this constant threat? Well, they hire a very, very specific kind of expert. You can almost think of them as a supply chain detective.
The real trick for these detectives is just how deep they have to go. It's not enough for them to just know their direct supplier. That's called the first tier. They have to know their supplier's supplier. That's the second tier. And then their supplier's supplier, the third tier. The N in N tier basically means they go as many layers deep as they have to, sometimes all the way back to the original mine or farm.
And this is their whole mission right here, pulled straight from that job description. The key word is proactive. It's not about reacting to problems when they pop up. It's about finding that weak link in the chain and making it stronger before it has a chance to break. So where does this detective do their work? Well, in this case, their watchtower is in Chennai, India. But they're not working alone in a dark room. They're the central hub, constantly talking with the purchasing teams, with the logistics people. The whole point is to build this big, unified defense system against any and all disruptions. Okay, so we get the mission. But what does this proactive defense actually look like day to day? What are they doing? Well, it pretty much boils down to this constant three-step cycle. First, they monitor. They're like intelligence agents, just scanning global news, weather patterns, digital risk signals, anything that could spell trouble. Then they analyze. They connect the dots. Okay, this port strike in Asia, how is that going to impact our supplier in Europe? And finally, they report. They have to turn all that data, all that noise, into a simple, clear warning for the company's leaders. And these reports aren't just boring spreadsheets. A flash report is like an emergency broadcast. Something is happening right now. A critical event summary is the deep dive. But most importantly, they don't just deliver bad news. They offer risk mitigation strategies. They're not just saying we're about to hit an iceberg. They're handing over the plan to steer the ship out of the way.
So what kind of person can actually do this job? As you can probably imagine, it takes a very specific blend of tools and talents.
Yeah, this is not an entry-level gig. The job posting is asking for a solid 3 to 5 years of experience. You have to have been in the trenches of the supply chain world to really develop the gut feeling for when something's about to go wrong. And really, it comes down to two different kinds of skills. On one side, you have the hard skills, the tools. You gotta know your way around things like PowerPoint to present your findings, and you need to be familiar with those massive company-wide software systems. But the soft skills, those are the real superpowers. You need an incredibly sharp analytical mind to find the signal in all the noise. You need amazing communication skills to get leadership to actually act on your warnings. And yeah, you have to be the kind of person who thrives under pressure, because a supply chain crisis on the other side of the planet doesn't really care that it's 3 a.m. your time. So we've dissected the role, the skills, the daily grind, but let's just pull back for a second and ask the big question. Why is this one job so unbelievably important right now?
I mean, really think about it. One analyst working a hybrid schedule on Chennai, looking at world events. What could that possibly have to do with your life, with your packages, with your shopping cart?
The answer is absolutely everything. This person, and thousands of others just like them, they're the invisible architects of resilience. They're the ones working behind the scenes, often in the middle of the night, connecting all these dots across continents, just to make sure the whole system that brings us our food, our medicine, our tech, doesn't just fall apart. And that leaves us with one final, pretty important question. These architects, they're always trying to shore up the defenses, but the world just keeps changing. So what's the next weak link they need to find before it finds us?